The title of my film is A Vengeance, as it means punishment that's been inflicted for any injury or wrong. A lot of horror films have one-worded titles, such as Orphan, Sinister and The Grudge, which hold simple meanings behind the whole plot of the film. This also fits in my storyline, as the protagonist haunts the antagonist as she previously killed her in a car accident, mimicking the punishment side of the definition. My media product also replicates the horror genre by using a font that supports the eerie and bloody aspect of the film. I wanted the font to be simple and readable, yet still conveying the horror genre clearly. I downloaded a font called Magical Springtime, which I thought was appropriate for the sequence, as it looks as if it's been scratched into the screen. The way it also appears creepily onto the screen and then fades away adds to mysterious atmosphere, again making sure the titles are just as important as the filming itself. Established conventions of horror opening sequences consist of dark, mysterious scenery, commonly in a house or a graveyard. I've set mine within a house, outside and in the graveyard, and tried to incorporate the most conventional settings in my sequence to portray the genre more effectively. Originally, I was going to film just within the house, but at various settings I believe it helps keep the audience more interested as to what's going on. The differences between the locations as well support my changes in time when the sequence goes into flashbacks, and it helps make that clear for my target audience. I thought that filming the whole sequence within a graveyard as well would be too cliché and stereotypical of horror, and I wanted the storyline to seem partially realistic. So by challenging some of the conventions of other real media products, I thought setting most of the sequence in a house makes it more frightening. Also, this shot adds an element of surprise in the opening, as the clips beforehand represent how the girl may have stopped haunting her murderer. However, she appears just behind her when we think that the woman is safe. This scene helps the audience empathise with the woman, as this is a common feature within most horror films. For my costumes and props, I wanted to keep in classic horror by making the differences between the characters clear. For the accident, the young girl is dressed in bright colours and a skirt to signify her happiness and youth. It is also sunny at the time, which adds to the element of the shot. However, to work as a contrast to this after her accident, I want her to look creepy and haunting. I've dressed her in a dark grey t-shirt and just black leggings to create the most realistic, eerie outfit. I also smudged black around her eyes and face to make her appear dirty, as if she'd been crying. With the murderer's outfit, it is majority dark throughout the sequence to rectify how she feels about the accident, so the guilt and fear is portrayed through her clothing too. Alternatively, when the sequence flashed back to the accident, the murderer is wearing a light coloured jumper, which represents how she was once happier before the accident. They also include an antagonist within the first few opening scenes to clearly open up the storyline and to help the audience see who the story is about. However, to develop a different form of media product similar to Nightmare on Elm Street 1984 version, I included the antagonist and protagonist within the opening sequence to gain the audience's attention, right into the story straight away. In the Nightmare on Elm Street, the male character is seen sharpening up tools and preparing himself to chase the innocent female character, which immediately raises enigma codes of the audience. A lot of detail about the car accident and the characters in my sequence is left out, not only due to the brief storyline, but to also raise enigma codes such as whose grave is the murderer visiting and why is the girl still haunting her. As we see the female character walking around trying to escape where she is, this slowly builds tension, and this is one aspect that I wanted to conform with in my sequence. Short, sharp clips of the male character are used to represent how he's getting ready to get the girl. I tried to recreate this by having harsh cut moments as well when we see the girl appear behind the woman as if she's ready to get her revenge there and then. The opening sequence sets up the story up by almost summarising what's happened in the past two females' lives, and then building it up towards the end to then have a film following on from that point onwards. The sequence also presents how both characters' lives were before the tragedy. At first we see the young girl skipping into her home, being cheerful and unsuspecting. On the other hand, we briefly see the woman as she's driving her car normally, not really worrying about anything until she hits the girl. The ending scene in the graveyard as well, when the woman is just strolling along, allows the audience to see where the girl is now. The opening sequence suggests that it's part of the horror genre due to locations of the graveyard, house and the darkness outside, the characters, one haunting the other, and tragic disruption to the storyline. The haunting young girl character as well majorly supports the horror genre of my opening sequence, as she conforms with some of the main conventions of horror films. For example, in The Ring there is a creepy haunting girl character that I've based my character on. The same applies to Sinister as well, when there is something haunting the family that's a similar representation to the young girl. The shock moments as well, when the girl suddenly appears behind or in the same scene as the woman, adds the element of surprise, which is a very common factor within films of the horror genre. My characters are introduced straight away in the opening, as I thought it was more important to the audience to immediately see who the film is about. The girl is seen first getting into the house as she is the main focus of the sequence. When the camera moves into the kitchen, it then moves into the image of the other woman and then cuts to her walking up to the house as well. I introduce them in similar ways to represent clearly how different they are now that the accident has happened.